Good day everyone, this is your Sir Christian for your MAPIN 9 and today we will be discussing Arts 9 for week number 1 and 2 entitled Western Classical Art Traditions. So in this lesson, we will try to analyze the art elements and principles in the production of work following the style of Western Classical Art, and we'll try to identify the distinct characteristics of arts during the different art periods. So may I request everyone to please prepare your LAS. You may read the lecture while watching this video for you to be able to answer all the questions later on. So let's start by defining what is art. So when we say art is the expression or application of human creative skills and imagination. So basically, art is everywhere. Look around you. Everything that is man-made is considered as work of art. And with art, you need to consider the elements of art. These are used as guide in creating an aesthetically pleasing work of art. As well as the principles of design, these are the standards or rules to be observed by the artist in creating work of art. We need to understand and apply these elements and principles to create a meaningful artwork. So let's try to check if you still remember the elements of art and principles of design. Kindly check your LAS. So let's check if you answered correctly. So when we say elements of art, it is consisted of line, shape, form, space, texture, value, and color. On the other hand, for the principles of design, it is consisted of balance, emphasis, rhythm, contrast, movement, unity, and pattern. In this lesson, we'll study the different characteristics in each type of art forms during the ancient, classical, and medieval periods. So take note of this: the ancient, the classical, and the medieval period. So for the ancient period, we have the prehistoric art and the Egyptian art. For the classical period, we have the Greek art and the Roman art. And for the medieval period, we have the Byzantine art, Romanesque art, and the Gothic art. Let's start with the ancient art. So under ancient art, we have prehistoric and Egyptian art. So for prehistoric art, or prehistoric, or before history, many indigenous people from around the world continue to produce artistic works distinctive to their geographic area and culture, until exploration and commerce brought record-keeping methods to them. On the other hand, when we say Egyptian art, ancient Egyptian artists use vertical and horizontal reference lines to maintain the correct proportions in their work. They often show sophisticated knowledge of anatomy and a close attention to details, especially in their rendering of animals. So for the comparison about the prehistoric paintings and Egyptian paintings, for prehistoric paintings, paintings are found inside caves. Okay, so it can also be for religious or ceremonial purposes, and they use prehistoric drawings of animals, usually correct in proportion. For the Egyptian, the purpose of Egyptian paintings is to make the deceased afterlife place pleasant. It emphasizes the importance of life after death and preservation of the knowledge of the past. So they have a huge respect with their deceased loved ones. And basically, they use as main colors. Okay, I have here some examples of prehistoric paintings and Egyptian paintings. Let's start with the prehistoric paintings. So as you can see here, these are handprints made inside a cave. Actually, this is quite old because it is roughly around 13,000 to 9,500 years ago. It is the Cueva de las Manos, or in translation, Cave of the Hands in Argentina. Another one from prehistoric painting. So here you can see a depiction of people riding on horses, battling against each other. This one is from Bhimbetka Cave in India, approximately around 12,000 years ago. This one is from Egypt. So we have here a group of ladies clapping their hands, playing an instrument, and dancing. So this one is called the Egyptian dance, roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. This one is very keen to details. Okay, so this one is called the Funerary. So in Filipino, Puneraria. Yeah. Roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Let's proceed with the sculpture. For prehistoric, materials used vary according to region and locality. Their sculpture is a result of natural erosion and not human artistry. and it may have mythological or religious significance. On the other hand, for Egyptian sculptures, they use symbolic elements. Empty spaces were filled with figures or hieroglyphics, and their tombs required the most extensive use of sculpture, and the most common materials used are wood, ivory, and stones. So I have here some examples. This one is from France, roughly around 25,000 years ago. So it is called Venus of Blazempoux. So silent Y, Venus of Blazempoux in France. Another one, this one is from Japan, humanoid creature. So this is called Dowu pottery. Dowu, as in D-O-W-U. Dowu pottery in Japan, approximately around 14,000 years ago. For the Egyptian sculpture, we have here a very famous queen. This is Queen Nefertiti, approximately around 3,000 years ago. Look at the details. And one of the famous pharaohs in Egypt, so we have here the Mask of Tutankhamen, approximately at around 3,000 years ago as well. For the architecture, so let's compare the prehistoric architecture and Egyptian architecture. Man developed a form of architecture based on megaliths. It is made up of a huge stone blocks which were probably intended for burial, and stones and rocks were associated with divinity. For the Egyptian, the structure has thick sloping walls with a few openings to obtain stability. The exterior and interior walls, along with columns and piers, were covered with hieroglyphics, and ornamentation were symbolic. When we say ornamentation, these are the designs. So let's check. I have here some examples. So for this, I'm very sure that you're familiar with this structure. This one is found in England, the famous Stonehenge, roughly around 5,000 years ago. Another one, the very famous Great Sphinx and the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, around 4,500 years ago. Let's proceed to our classical art. So for the classical art, we have two. One is the Greek art and second is the Roman art. For the Greek art includes much pottery, sculpture, and architecture. It is known for the standing of the figures. So for the Roman artists sought to commemorate great events in life of their state to glorify their emperors, as well as record the inner life of people, the expressive ideas of beauty and nobility. So let's compare the Greek paintings and the Roman paintings. For the Greek, mostly found in vases, panels, and tombs. They depict natural figures with dynamic compositions. Most of the subjects were battle scenes, mythological figures, and everyday scenes. They reveal a grasp of linear perspective and naturalist representation. On the other hand, for Roman paintings, copied or imitated from Hellenic Greek paintings, it has a wide variety of subjects: animals, everyday life, still life, mythological subjects, portraits, and landscapes. Uses brightly colored backgrounds for fresco technique, multiple rectangular areas, multi-pointed perspective, trompe-l'oeil effect. Okay? So let's have some examples. Here is a painting from the Greek paintings. So we have here Pallas and the Centaur. Look at the details. Also known as Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, together with the Centaur. Half human, half beast. Next, this one is a very famous Greek mythological creature, the one-eyed giant. So this one is called the Cyclops. For the Roman paintings, we have here a very nice battle scenes. This one is made to commemorate the greatness of Alexander the Great. This one is called Alexander Mosaic. And last, we have here a painting, a Roman painting on a vase. This one is called the Portland vase. Let's proceed with the sculptures. So for the sculptures, Greek, where it tends to stiff their bodies, are hidden within enfolding robes, and showed up all points of human anatomy and proportion. It is also Hellenistic in style. For the Roman, made of monumental terracotta, they produce reliefs in Greek Roman triumphal columns with continuous narrative reliefs around. So let's have some examples. This one is Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty in Greeks. This one is called the Peplos Kore. So Peplos, this is shawl, and Kore is a girl. This one is made from bronze, Roman sculpture, entitled The Orator. Look at the realistic details. And last we have one of the great emperors of Roman Empire, none other than Julius Caesar. This one is called Augustus Prima Porta. Next, let's check the Greek and Roman architecture. So for the Greek architectural style or order, temples consist of a central shrine or room and aisle surrounded by rows of columns. For the Roman architecture, they built sturdy stone structures both for use and to perpetuate their glory. Public games, baths, and possessions. Let's have an example. This one is very famous in Greece, the Temple of Zeus. Another one from the Greek architecture, this one, the Temple of Hera. For the Roman architecture, we have here the Arena of Nimes, also known as Nimes Amphitheater. And of course, the very famous in Rome, where gladiator battles occurred, the Roman Colosseum. Now let's have the medieval art. So in the medieval art, we have three different art style or period. Medieval artists focus on these three art forms: painting, sculpture, and architecture. All these three forms were promoted by the church. So always remember that when it comes to medieval art, church is always associated. So let's check for the paintings. We have Byzantine, Romanesque, and Gothic. For Byzantine, the lively styles of paintings, which had been invented in Greek and Rome, live on in Byzantine, but this time for Christian subjects. The Greek and Oriental styles seem to blend together in magnificent, imposing images which adorn the churches in large or small forms. For the Romanesque, these are largely placed mosaics on the walls of the churches that follow a strict frontal pose, shows traces of Mozarabic influence, elongated oval faces, large staring eyes, long noses, figures against flat colored bands, and heavy outlining. And for Gothic, paintings have been confined in the illumination of manuscript pages and the paintings of fresco on walls of churches in cosmopolitan style, elegant mannered and sophisticated. Let's have some example. So this one is from the Byzantine art. This one is called the Crucifixion. Another one. This one is a painting of Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus Christ from the Romanesque art. Romanesque painting in Catolina, Spain. And last we have here the Mother and Child, Mary and Child, the Roselli, Madonna for the Gothic art. For the sculpture, Byzantine, the dominant themes are religious, everyday life scenes, and motifs from nature. Animals were used as symbols, while some had acrostic signs that contained a great theological significance. For the Romanesque, some of the famous sculptural pieces are reliquaries, altars, arcal frontals, crucifixes, and devotional images. Small individual works of art were generally made of costly materials for royal and aristocratic patrons. And for Gothic, it has a greater freedom of style. They no longer lay closely against the wall, but began to project outward. Figures were given their own particular attitude, instead of being set into particular patterns, and are more lively and realistic. Let's have some examples. This one is from Byzantine art. Sculpture from Byzantine art. This one is from Romanesque art. The sculpture of Saint Pierre. This one is from the Gothic art. Sculpture of baby Jesus and Mama Mary. For the architecture, so for the Byzantine, it has a lot common with the early Christians' architectures. Mosaic decoration was perfected, as was the use of clerestory to bring the light in front of high windows. Advancement in developing the dome created a new style in global architecture. For the Romanesque architecture, the doorways of Romanesque churches are often grand sculptured portals. Excuse me. Wood or metal doors are surrounded by elaborate stone sculpture arranged in zones to fit architectural elements. And for Gothic, the design include two new devices, pointed arc and stone vaulting. Pointed arc enable builders to construct much higher ceiling vaults, and stone vaulting borne on a network of stone ribs supported by piers and clustered pillars. So let's have some examples. This one is from the Byzantine architecture, the walls of Constantinople. Next one, this one is very famous in Italy, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but actually it is a cathedral. This one is called the Pisa Cathedral. Last but not the least, this one is very famous as well from France, a Gothic art called the Notre Dame Cathedral. So let us remember these following statements or key points. For prehistoric artworks, these are clues for archaeologists in understanding the Stone Age civilization, while the Egyptian art is a combination of geometric regularity and keen observation to nature. For the Greek art and architecture, had lasting influence with its simplicity in the history of Western civilization and art. For the Roman art, same humanistic basis as the Greeks. For Byzantine art, purposely made to glorify Christian religion and to express its mystery. For the Romanesque art, it was characterized by its very vigorous style in painting and sculpture, lavishly decorated manuscripts, and retained many basic features of Roman architectural styles. And last, for Gothic art, styles reinforced symbolic meanings. Now, I would like you to get your LAS and let's proceed to all the questions that you need to answer. But before you answer our LAS, I would like you to prepare these following materials. First, you need to prepare intermediate paper or yellow paper, but we preferred intermediate paper, okay? Just in case you don't have intermediate paper, you may use yellow paper. And we need an Oslo paper. If you don't have an Oslo paper, you may use white typewriting, long or short, and coloring materials. Let's start your answering with your LAS, first quarter, week 1 and 2. Kindly check your LAS between the pages 7 and 8. So let us practice directions. Give your own interpretation about the following artworks. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So this one is for 10 points. The Cave of Lascaux and the Porto Nacio sarcophagus. You may search it on the internet. Last is the Hagia Sophia. Once again, all you have to do is check these artworks and then kindly give me your interpretation about these following artworks, okay? Next, let us appreciate on page 9. So for the direction, answer the following question below. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper for 15 points. So what are the common activities depicted by the paintings of the prehistoric and Egyptian artists? For letter B, what is the importance of Greek and Roman art forms to the modern civilization? And last, how can people preserve and protect these art forms made by those artists during the different period or eras? Once again, that's for page number 9. And for your Oslo paper and typewriting, we have here the Greek classical architecture. The fundamental elements of Greek architecture are the 3 types of columns or orders, such as Doric, Ionic, Corinthian orders. They play an important role in classical architecture. So draw the three classical orders, the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian on your Osno paper. Once again, if you don't have Osno paper, you may use typewriting for this. Color your drawings, use crayons or any coloring materials. For the rubric, so the highest score is 5 points. Creativity and design, neatness of artwork, proper use of materials, overall look of artwork, total of 20 points. And for the evaluation, actually, you may check your LAS. You may answer this one. Kindly check. Read and study the characteristics, function listed below. Then identify the art form it describes by putting a check mark. Once again, check mark inside the box of the corresponding art form, and beside it, write the period or the era. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper for 20 points. Okay? So kindly copy the statement and write the graph as well. Then put a check mark to the right answer. Kindly identify the art forms and the period or era of the given statement. Okay? So once again, for your LAS, kindly check page 7 and 8, page 9, page 10, and page 11. And that is for our Arts 9 for today. Once again, gentle reminder, the submission of your LAS for week number 1 and 2 is on September 24, 2021. By tomorrow, I will try to post my next video for your health, to be followed by your music and your PE subject. Thank you very much and see you on the next video.